Hey everyone, this is my first time speaking, so if I sound nervous, forgive me, I'll get better the next time. Just a quick introduction about myself. I am Vimalan. You can call me Vim. I'm not going to pronounce my last name. It's too complicated. You can call me Vim. I am from Malaysia, but I now live in London, and I run a Webflow design and development agency. And we have And today's talk is basically going to be about why agencies should be building products, some tips that I've picked up while doing this for about 3 years, and yeah, just how we can validate some products and why we think it's useful for agencies to do this. So before we get started, I'll let you know a little bit about ourselves. We are a UK-based Webflow agency. We have just finished our third year in business, going to our fourth year. We have worked on about 200-ish Webflow projects in the last 3 years. We have a team of about 10 people, mixed of designers, developers, and technical developers. While doing all of that, we have also successfully launched about 5 products for the Webflow space. And collectively, that number is a little bit outdated, but right now we have about 40 to 45,000 monthly users across all of our products. So the first product, before we get into what it is, what we do, the first thing that we ever launched is called Formly. It is a multi-step library made for Webflow. It gives you 100% control of the design. Like the example that you see up there is completely made in Webflow. And you just need to add a couple of attributes to get the multi-step form working. There's literally no code. Everything is attribute-based. And the main reason for this is we had a lot of customers and also developers complain that existing solutions out there are, way too expensive for what they are. And the second one is they all look pretty much exactly the same. And especially with a web platform like Webflow, where you have all the design control, it kind of looks like a sore thumb on your website when you just have this ugly-ass form. So what we did is we built a product that gives that design control back without compromising on any of the functionality. We have launched this, I think, about 2 years ago. Right now, we have about 2.3 million unique script loads every single month. We have about 30,000 monthly users. That's combined of free and paid users. The second product that we launched is a video player library. Similar to Formly, it solves a problem that a lot of designers have in Webflow, is that clients want to embed a Vimeo video or a HTML video, and they want to customize it, make it look interactive or make it look nice. Yet, with all the existing solutions out there, that requires a lot of code, a lot of custom CSS, and clients, one day they want blue, the next day they want red, and you have to go in and change the whole damn thing. It doesn't make sense with a platform like Webflow, where everything is so visual. So the solution that we built is FlowPlay, which, like the example that you see up there, is completely made in Webflow and requires no code. The whole example that you just saw, there's just attributes. We launched this about last year, and so far we have about 400,000 unique site loads every single month. So with that being said, how did we get started with building products? Believe it or not, it wasn't part of a plan. So as a freelancer, my way of standing out was to build something cool and interesting, especially in the web design and development space. Standing out is way too difficult. I'm sure all of you know that. And personally, I'm not a fan of talking about myself or what I do. I prefer to show what I've done and let people see that. So for me, one interesting way to do that was through something called clonables, where in Webflow, you could build something really nice and let other people clone it and reuse it in their projects. For me, this was a way to sort of flex my creative mind and also a little bit of my technical skills that I thought the space kind of needed. I built all of this cool, interesting stuff. I put it out there for free. People clone it, and I built a small following in the Webflow space. 1 year later, that sort of simple clonables became a little bit more complex, where there was a little bit of documentation. They can't just copy it and paste it. They need to tweak it. They need to add some extra bit of attributes. So that I call a proto-product. It was neither a free thing that was easy to use, but it was not too difficult as well. And then 6 months later, we then launched products where they have pricing, there's very detailed documentation, examples, support, and a community behind each product. As I said, right now we have about 5 successful products that sort of cover pretty much everything in the Webflow space. One common question I get is, how do you find products? How do you validate them? And even large agencies often don't know where to start. For me, I would say is solve a problem that you have. Being an agency, it puts us in a very nice space where you're also the consumer of the tools that are out there, and also interact with clients and other developers to see what the other tools lack and where you can build. For example, companies like Typeform, MailChimp, FreshBooks all started out as a traditional agency. They either solved a problem for themselves, like FreshBooks, they solved the invoicing problem that they had, and then that became its own thing, and now that's the only thing that they do. Or they solved a problem for their clients. For example, Typeform, they built a multi-step form for their client, they iterated on it, and now it's a multi-billion-dollar product. So for me, it's the same case for us, is that we have clients always asking us, hey, can you help us build a multi-step form? It's the most annoying thing you could build. So we thought, you know what, let's try to build a product around it, abstract everything out, make it as easy as possible for us to use first, and then we put it out as a product, which then became very, very successful. The second thing is identify repetitive needs. As an agency, pretty much there's one component on every single website that we ever build. That is, it could be a Vimeo player, it could be a video player, it could be a slider. And you find that these tools that integrate with Webflow, for my case, weren't very good. They were complex, they were cumbersome, and they just made dealing with this sort of stuff very annoying. So what we did is we solved this problem for ourselves again, and then we packaged it up into a nice product and put it out there. And that, as long as you're solving a problem that you have, users are going to use it. The third point is a little bit of I would say, a rare one, but we do get this a lot, where clients ask us for a very specific thing that, for example, we had a client asking, is there a way where I could store all of the Webflow components that you build so that I can go in and build the pages myself? Back then, it was not possible. So what we did is, you know what? Sure, let's try something. Let's figure something out. We built a Chrome extension just for that specific client. And then we realized, hey, that could be interesting for other clients as well. It could be a value add that you could say, like, hey, look, there's a Chrome extension that we have. We'll build a website for you. You can then store all the components in there. And then you could quickly copy and paste to create landing pages, campaign pages, and stuff like that. That eventually became its own product, a Chrome extension that right now has about 1,000 monthly users. And it's completely free. So why should agencies explore building products? I think the main thing is money. We all want money. And we know in the agency space or in the freelancer space, it's a feast of famine model. 1 month, we have 10 projects. We are happy. We have all the money in the world. The next month, we have no projects. We have no money. We're not sure what the next project is going to be. With the Agency Plus product, right now, our revenue stream is split between agency and product. It's about 60 and 40%, 60-40. So 60% comes from agency work, 40% comes from recurring revenue from all the products that we ever launched. That way, it sort of diversifies the income that we have. We are not reliant on closing every single month. We can afford to say, nope, we are not working on that project because we have enough things to do with the product stuff. With that recurring income as well, it's good to build IP, which I'll get to in a bit. The second biggest point for me would be you get to build a community of your own. Right now, we have a Slack community about 1,000 to 1,200 users. So when we need to hire or when clients need a 3D animator or a 2D animator, we just reach out to the community. And that's where we do all our hiring. Any tips, tricks, whatever that we need, we go through the community. And anything that we launch, we get a huge amount of support from the community. So that's another useful thing that comes with building a product, especially if it's a good product. The third point is it scales without a lot of effort. So the product development stage is the most complicated part. You spend a lot of time, a lot of resources building the product, getting it to a point where you can launch. But given that the launch is successful and the product is good, all you need to do is keep it up, maintain it, make it bug-free, do good support, customer support. It will eventually grow. When I got started with the product stuff, I was very happy I was making £600 every single month. But now that's almost like 10 times, 20 times than what I could ever imagine back then. So now you can imagine how all we do is just maintain the product, add new features, it sort of scales by itself and the recurring revenue keeps growing, given that it's a good product. The fourth point I would say is it sometimes gives you clients a reason to choose you. So we have quite a lot of big clients come to us saying, hey, we found this product that you have built, but we don't know how to use it. Could you help us build something using your product? And then eventually they turn into a recurring client, or they let us redesign their whole website and stuff like that. So it also it shows clients that you know what you're doing. If you're building a tool for a platform, it kind of shows that you have authority, you know what you're doing, and you're solving problems not for just yourself, for others as well. It's a very, very good way to market yourself, stand out in such a competitive space. The fifth point for me would be, personally, this is why I kind of like building products, is that it allows me to be a little bit more creative. With client work, we all are subject to what the client likes, and sometimes that might not be the best thing, or it might not look the best. Whereas if it's your own product, you could be as creative as you want. So the landing pages that we do are very, very interactive. We use a lot of 3D, we use a lot of 2D, just to help stand out. And that goes into our portfolio as well. And it's sort of, clients see that, they say, hey, look, I really like that website that you built for Formly. Could you do something like that for us? So it's sort of a whole loop on its own. And the last point that I just realized like a few months ago when I got an acquisition offer is that it builds a lot of IP. And when you eventually want to sell your agency or exit it, that is a very, very valid reason for you to ask for a higher valuation, or it really helps when you want to just sell that specific product out. So recently we got an offer just to buy a part of the product, and we could sell it without any effort. And again, it could help you with your liquidation down the line. 6 things that I wished I knew when I started building products. The first one is design for your audience. So for us, our primary audience are designers and developers. So a lot of the marketing stuff that we do are very, very visual, very interactive. We put out very nice. Honestly, we spent about maybe 3 months building a product and about 3 months just figuring out the marketing website, designing, just making sure the product feels good and high-end, because that's what designers are going to see. If the product is really good but your marketing looks bad, designers aren't going to pick it up because it doesn't catch their eye. So that's what we found, and that really works. The second one is pricing model. This kind of depends on what your product is, but if you could offer a one-time payment, a very large one-time payment, I can bet you more people will buy your product than if it's a very cheap monthly recurring subscription. For us, all our products always have a lifetime plan, and we also have a monthly plan added to it. Surprisingly enough, we sold out more lifetime plans in our 3 years than we do the monthly plans. For me, as long as your product does not have recurring costs, if you do not host your videos or whatever, if you can justify a recurring payment, I think people will be happy to pay. But if you can't, if you're just charging a recurring payment just because you want to make recurring revenue, it's not going to be successful. I would almost suggest charge a high one-time fee that will most likely convert more users. The third one sounds straightforward, but it took me forever to get to it, is to add a damn FAQ or a documentation on your product, because the first 2 months of my life was just spending answering the same damn question every single time. By just adding a FAQ and a documentation, completely removed all of that, and we can reduce the number of time that we spend on support and actually start improving the products. The other point is, I think this is where a lot of large agencies get stuck, is that they do not start simple. They always want to build something that's way too complex for what they can do. They aim too big, and they never launch anything, and they spend all that money in R&D. It doesn't do anything. For me, I would say start simple. Find a very small problem that you have, solve it, put it out there for free, test the market, validate your ideas, build a brand, and then you can sort of build it out there. The other point is stay niche. Again, this is something a large agency would almost forget, is that they do not solve a small problem. They try to go for the big one. They try to build the next Figma or the next Webflow, not knowing that how complex it's going to be. Start very small. It could be a very, very silly thing, like for example, the video player. I thought nobody's going to buy it. Why would anyone pay so much just to get a video player library when they can actually do it themselves for free? But the value there is it saves them time, it gives them customizability, and as long as they see value in it, they are willing to pay for it. So that's something that I learned. And the last one is, again, I'm quite guilty of that. Marketing is very, very important. If you have a good product but you do not market anything, it's not going to sell. We still struggle with it because running an agency while doing product marketing is very, very complex. But what I tend to see a lot of people do is they have a very, very good product. They put out one tweet launching it, and they completely disappear. They do not talk about it. They do not reshare it. They do not make an attempt to make examples or sort of talk about their products. So the best thing you could do is just keep talking about it. Someone will find it, and eventually it will grow. So always, no matter what product that you have, I would say is marketing is the more important thing. That's it. Thank you so much for your time.
So, do you have any questions? Who want to ask a question, raise your hand. Any questions? Great.
Hi, thank you for the great talk. I have two questions. One is, could you recall the name of the extension, the Chrome extension that you mentioned before during the talk? And the second one is actually, how do you create those products? I mean, by creating the products that you mentioned, like the video player or the other one with the forms, you have to use attributes, right? So is this something like you have the line of JavaScript code and then you add the attributes and then that works? So that means that to create this type of product that is required to know JavaScript. Is that correct? I mean, the question is being a designer with a little knowledge of code, am I able to create a product or not really?
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't catch your first question, but...
So the first one was about the extension, the Chrome extension that you mentioned.
Okay. Do you want to know more about it?
Yeah.
Okay. The Chrome extension is mainly for Webflow developers. So right now, I'm not sure whether you use Webflow, but if you want to copy a component from page 1 to page 2, if you want to copy 3 components, you can't do that. You have to do one by one. So what a client wanted is they just want to have all the components on the sidebar, so they can just, within the page that they want to build, they can just copy and paste it. So what we do is the Chrome extension pretty much allows you to store all of these components on the side, and then the user or the client could just copy and paste it.
But what's the name of this extension?
It's called the VDesign's Chrome extension.
Okay.
Yeah, I can share you the link after this as well. But yeah, the second question is, so these products do not require any coding knowledge. They are usually, a lot of the customers that we have are designers and very, very beginners to Webflow. All you need to do is design it on Webflow, and you just need to add custom attributes. For example, if we take the multi-step form, there are only 5 attributes that you need to add. One is to the form, to define it like this is the form that's going to be a multi-step form. 1 attribute to each of the steps. So if you have 5 steps, you add 1 attribute to each step. And then attributes to your back button, next button, and submit button. That's it. That sort of 5 attributes will build you a multi-step form like the one that you see just now. And again, that does not require any coding knowledge or anything like that. To build the product, you do need some coding knowledge. So we have technical developers that we work with to build these products. They do not have any Webflow knowledge, but we need to feed them that, saying, hey, this is how Webflow works. This is how the product needs to work. Figure it out. Write the code so that it's easy for the end user not to even, they don't even need to see the code. They just need to know the attributes and where to add them.